Welcome aboard, fellow enthusiasts, as we embark on another incredible video. Welcome to another exciting video, where we'll be shedding light on 24th Fighter Squadron. The 24th Fighter Squadron is a United States Air Combat Command unit, assigned to the 495th Fighter Group at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth, Texas. The squadron was activated in 2019 and flies the F-Air as an active associate unit of the 457th Fighter Squadron. The squadron's first predecessor was organized in June 1917 as the 19th Aero Squadron, a provisional unit, at Kelly Field, Texas. It deployed to France as the 24th Aero Squadron observation and flew combat missions. Following the armistice, it became part of the Army of Occupation. It returned to the United States and was demobilized in November 1919. The squadron's second predecessor was formed in 1921 as the 24th Squadron Pursuit. It moved to the Panama Canal Zone the following year and served in the air defense of the Panama Canal until inactivating in 1946. The two squadrons were consolidated in 1924. Our focus now turns to World War I, an important aspect of our discussion. The 24th Fighter Squadron was formed in early June 1917 as the 19th Provisional Aero Squadron, drawing its personnel from Company F, Provisional Aviation School Squadron, which had been organized at Kelly Field, Texas on 1 May 1917. It became the 24th Aero Squadron on 14 June 1917. On 11 November 1917, the original squadron was divided, with half of the squadron being organized as the 185th Aero Squadron. The unit deployed to England after the US entry into World War I on 9 January 1918, and from there moved on to France after a training period in England on 18 July 1918, positioned first at Street Mason Replacement Barracks, and later at Orches Aerodrome. During its World War I service, the 24th was assigned to the 1st Army Observation Group. Its first combat mission came on 12 September 1918, and 13 more missions were flown during the preceding 10 days. The unit's first confirmed combat victory came on 15 September 1918 when 2nd Row East, Wiles pilot and 2nd Albert W. Smebrod observer shot down a German aircraft. The unit also lost 3 aircraft during the same period, and of the crews from these aircraft, 2 men became prisoners of war. The unit went on to fly 155 missions from Gondreville and Vavincourt aerodromes from 22 September 1918 during the Meuse-Argonne offensive and claimed 11 aerial victories. Of these missions, 22 were termed special combat missions, in which they were sent out by Army headquarters to obtain aerial reconnaissance information most urgently needed to support ground operations, all of which were conducted at extremely low altitude. For these special duties, teams were detached from the squadron and sent to Army headquarters at Souilly Aerodrome between 9 and 18 October. On one such mission, 1st Lieutenant Raymond P. Dillon pilot and 2nd Lieutenant John B. Lee III engaged 9 enemy aircraft and claimed 3 of them. After the November 1918 armistice with Germany, the squadron was part of the occupation of the Rhineland, returning to the United States on 1 October 1919 and being demobilized. In this section, we'll be deep diving into interwar years, unraveling its complexities and uncovering valuable insights. The 24th Squadron Pursuit was organized at Mitchell Field, New York, and assigned to the 6th Composite Group at France Field, Panama Canal Zone on 22 April 1922. Ground elements departed 30 April 1922 from the port of New York on the USAT Somme en route to the Canal Zone. Air elements concurrently departed Mitchell Field and arrived several days later at France Field, Panama Canal Zone. The squadron was redesignated the 24th Pursuit Squadron in 1923. The unit remained at France Field until October 1932 when it moved to the newly completed Albrook Field, where it joined the 16th Pursuit Group, to which it had been assigned in 1930. For the rest of its existence, the squadron's mission was the defense of the Panama Canal. The squadron was redesignated, in keeping with the changes sweeping through the Army Air Corps, becoming the 24th Fighter Squadron on 15 May 1942. The Great Depression in the United States and lack of funding to the United States Army Air Corps led to the fortunes of the unit being at a rather low ebb by 1 January 1939, at which time the squadron consisted of 6 flying officers and 93 other ranks. The squadron was equipped with the Boeing P shooter. With the breakout of World War I in Europe during September 1939, the squadron was one of the first to be brought up to strength when, on 7 September 1939, 25 new second lieutenants arrived from Barksdale, Selfridge and Langley Fields in the United States. Between the date of their arrival and the Pearl Harbor attack on 7 December 1941, 13 of these young officers were reassigned to other pursuit squadrons in the Canal Zone, and this marked the beginning of a policy whereby most of the squadrons of the 16th and Pursuit Groups grew, almost literally, out of the 24th Pursuit Squadron. In October 1939, the squadron received word that it was to re-equip with the new Curtiss P Hawks. By the end of 1939, the squadron was at authorized strength with 12 PRs. The squadron color was yellow at the time. 1 captain, the squadron commander, 11 second lieutenants and 142 enlisted ranks. The year 1940 passed in a series of training maneuvers and personnel replacements and reassignments. Due to training accidents, as of 31 December 1940, the unit had but 8 of its PEs left, and officer strength had dwindled to 1 captain, 1 first lieutenant and 6 second lieutenants, but enlisted strength had grown to 158. In June 1941, the squadron received 9 new Curtiss P Hawks and, with these, a number of long-range navigational flights were undertaken, one going so far as Trinidad. Now, let's shift our focus to World War I and embark on an intellectual exploration of its various dimensions. After the Pearl Harbor attack in December 1941, the squadron initially remained on standing alert at Albrook, but dispatched Celsius flight to Salinas Airport, Ecuador, to provide local air defense for that strategic point on 2 February 1942. The remainder of the squadron moved to La Joya Aerodrome on 12 March 1942, where they remained until returning to Albrook on 30 September. For the first 4 months that the unit was at La Joya, they had operated off the very primitive dirt runway there. This field was 25 miles northeast of Albrook, just off the main Pan-American highway to Chipo. It was, however, well situated as, just off the runway was heavy jungle growth, which offered excellent revetments and camouflage. The unit had also transitioned from its PX to Bell-P aircraft starting 2 May 1942, when it acquired 10 of these aircraft from the Fighter Group. The field at La Joya became flooded due to the rainy season in September 1942, forcing the return of the unit, somewhat ahead of schedule, to Albrook, where conditions were very crowded. By then, the P-ERDs had been exchanged for 14 P-ERCs. On 15 October 1942, 8 P-ERCs were dispatched on a mission near Rio Hato to graphically illustrate the effectiveness of the cannon-armed fighter as a ground attack aircraft. The Aerocabras attacked a column of derelict trucks positioned there and, when the dust settled, all but 5 of the 115 vehicles had been completely destroyed. In addition, between November 1942 and 11 January 1943, the squadron also had a solitary Douglas P-70 Havoc night fighter, which it maintained and operated on behalf of the XXVI Fighter Command at Albrook. This was the rather weak 6th Air Force response to concern over the lack of night fighter defenses for the Panama Canal. The respite at Albrook was short-lived, however, as it had now become the policy of 6th Air Force to rotate its fighter squadrons in and out of remote bases for practical as well as for morale purposes. Thus, on 17 January 1943, With a total of 17 aircraft on hand, the squadron took up residence again at La Joya, following the arrival of the dry season, where it stayed until 28 May, when it returned once again, briefly, to Albrook. However, just prior to the return to Albrook on 24 May, 12 P-checks flew in support of 3 Navy PT boats in a simulated dive bombing and strafing attack on 2 Navy destroyers some 10 miles southeast of Tabaquila Island. The next move, however, was to Howard Field after being yet again flooded out at La Joya on 9 June 1943, although Flight East was detached to serve on Ray Island in the Bay of Panama on 15 June. Punta Coco Airfield, at the southern tip of La Esmeralda Peninsula. Also, the squadron received 4 P-Erds which had previously been stationed at Lossy Field, Puerto Rico. Fortunately, however, the squadron flew its last P-39 missions on 25 June 1943 and, ironically, these were replaced on 27 June 1943 by 2 refurbished Curtiss P-Erks and on 29 June 2 new P-Erm Warhawks. From that point through until August, the squadron transitioned into new P-Erms, 22 of which were on hand by the end of that month. Meanwhile, the detachment at Ray Island E-Flight was joined by Fahrenheit Flight, and these were amalgamated into one very large East Flight, still on Ray Island. On 27 August 1943, flying their new P-Erms, A and B flights flew a mass cross-country to Costa Rica. The next day, they flew down the Atlantic side of the Isthmus of Panama completely undetected and made a successful surprise attack on the Gatun locks of the Panama Canal. The flight made 3 dive bombing attacks from 10,000 feet while a flight made for strafing passes. Defending interceptors, finally alerted to the proceedings, didn't show up until the attack was completely over. Effective 1 November 1943, the squadron was assigned directly to the XXBI Fighter Command and, by 31 December, had totally re-equipped with P-Erms. The squadron was moved again to Madden Field near Madden Dam on 8 March 1944 and, shortly following, again re-equipped, this time with Bell Peaks and Peaks, and Piper Ls and North American AT-6 Texans were also assigned. A Hack Northrop RA-17 as well as a Curtiss R-Peak were also assigned. By March a single Vultee Air Valiant had also been added, to augment the instrument training program. In July 1944, the squadron was once again tasked to make mock attacks on Panama Canal installations and, later in the same month, conducted very intensive interceptor exercises against various BI Bomber Command elements. By the end of that month, 23 PX were on hand, of which 21 were combat ready. On 15 August 1944, the squadron moved again, this time to France Field and, by October, the unit had reached perhaps its highest state of combat readiness, with 23 of 24 PX airworthy, the highest percentage in XXBI Fighter Command at the time. In February 1945, the unit was redesignated as the 24th Fighter Squadron 2 engine, and this signaled the advent of the sleek Lockheed P-38 Lightning into squadron service. The first P-38 known assigned was P-40 for 23,072, which also suffered a landing accident on 25 February 1945. The squadron moved once again, although the main body was still stationed at France Field, this time to Chame Field, Panama, and by March 1945 had a mixed strength consisting of 16 PX, 11 PS, and single examples of the Cessna UC-78, North American ATF and a Vultee Air. By June 1945, the P-38 Lightnings predominated, with 20 Ps on hand and but 5 PX, although one of the Ps was lost that month to an accident, the earlier Ps having been augmented by PLs. A Beechcraft UC was also assigned to the squadron to serve as a conversion trainer to twin-engined equipment, augmenting the UC-78. With the end of the war in September 1945, the squadron reduced its activities, and many personnel were transferred back to the United States for separation. The squadron was placed in a non-operational status on 1 November 1945 and inactivated on 15 October 1946. Its remaining aircraft were transferred to the Fighter Squadron. Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve CJTFOIR. In April 2023, the 24th Fighter Squadron deployed with the 457th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron to the 378 Air Expeditionary Wing. This marked a return to combat operations for the men and women of the 24FS and the last operational deployment of the FK. The unit was selected for conversion to the FEA. Now, let's shift our attention to Active Associate Squadron. The squadron was reactivated on 25 October 2019 at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth as an active duty associate unit of Air Force Reserve Command's 457th Fighter Squadron. At Carswell, it replaced the 355th Fighter Squadron, which moved to another base without personnel or equipment. The squadron is assigned to the 495th Fighter Group, which is located at Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. Its assigned pilots flew the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcons of the 457th until late 2023. On October 1, 2023, the unit was recoded as the newest FEA Fighter Squadron. The FEA marks a significant milestone for the men and women of the 24th Fighter Squadron. The unit now hosts the most combat-capable fighter aircraft in USAF history. Welcome to the next segment, where we explore lineage and its significance in our journey. 24th Aero Squadron, organized as 19th Aero Squadron Provisional, c. June 1917. Redesignate 24th Aero Squadron on 14 June 1917. Redesignate 24th Aero Squadron Observation 22 August 1917. Demobilized on 1 October 1919. Consolidated with the 24th Pursuit Squadron on 8 April 1924. 24th Fighter Squadron constituted as the 24th Squadron Pursuit on 30 August 1921. Organized on 1 October 1921. Redesignate 24th Pursuit Squadron on 25 January 1923. Consolidated with the 24th Aero Squadron on 8 April 1924. Redesignate 24th Pursuit Squadron Interceptor on 6 December 1939. Redesignate 24th Fighter Squadron on 15 May 1942. Redesignate 24th Fighter Squadron to Engine on 1 February 1940. Inactivated on 15 October. Redesignate 24th Fighter Squadron. Activated on 25 October 2019. In the following section, we'll be immersing ourselves in the captivating world of assignments. Post Headquarters, Kelly Field, c. June 1917. Aviation Concentration Center, January 1918. American Expeditionary Forces, 24 January 6 August 1918. Attached to Royal Flying Corps until 18 July 1918. Replacement Concentration Center, AEF, 23 July 1918. Ivy Corps Observation Group, 6 August 1918. 1st Army Observation Group, 22 August 1918. 3rd Army, 9 April 1919. I Corps Observation Group, 6 May 1919. Attached to 2nd Infantry Division, American Forces in Germany, 2 July 1919. Post Headquarters, Mitchell Field, 2 August 1919. I Corps Area, 5 August 1 October 1919. 2nd Corps Area, 1 October 1921. Panama Canal Department, 30 April 1922. 6th Group Observation, later 6th Group Composite, 6th Composite Group, 27 May 1922. 20th Pursuit Group, 15 November 1930. Attached to 6th Composite Group Attack Wing, 16 June 1930. To attach to 6th Composite Group. 16th Pursuit Group, later 16th Fighter Group, 1 December 1930. To XXVI Fighter Command, 1 November 1943. 6th Fighter Wing, 25 August 15 October 1946. 495th Fighter Group, 25 October 2019 present. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting stations and exploring its implications in greater detail. Kelly Field, Texas, C. June 28 December 1917 Aviation Concentration Center, Garden City, New York, January 1918 Romney Rest Camp, Winchester, England, January 1918 RFCY, Kent, England, 31 Jan 1918. Divided into training flights, 31 January 11 May 1918. Flight A, RFCY Flight B, RFC London Colknife Croydon, South London Flight C, RFC Sageford, Norfolk Flight D, RFC Whiten, Huntingdonshire of Knarborough, Norfolk, 11 May 18 July 1918 Street Mason Replacement Barracks, France, 22 July 1918 Orches Aerodrome, France, 6 August 1918 Gondreville Sub-Moselle Aerodrome, France, 22 August 1918 Vavincourt Aerodrome, France, 22 September 1918 Detachment operated from Sully Aerodrome, October 1918, 27 October 6 November Albicentham, Germany, 7 May 14 July 1919 Mitchell Field, New York, C2 August 1919 Park Field, Tennessee, August 1 October 1919 Mitchell Field, New York, 1 October 1921 22 April 1922 France Field, Panama Canal Zone, 30 April 1922 Albrook Field, Panama Canal Zone, 26 October 1932 LaJoya Field, Panama, 15 March 1942 Albrook Field, Panama Canal Zone, September 1942 LaJoya Field, Panama, 10 January 1943 Albrook Field, Panama Canal Zone, 28 May 1943 Howard Field, Panama Canal Zone, 9 June 1943 Madden Field, Panama, 8 March 1944 France Field, Panama Canal Zone, 15 August 1944 15 October 1946 Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth, 25 Aug 2019 present. Let's transition to aircraft and uncover its significance. Curtiss JN4 Jenny, 1917 Salmson A, 1918-1919 de Havilland DH4, 1922-1930 Spadsai, 1919 Fokker Dove C at various times during period Thomas Morse MB3 at various times during period Boeing PW9, at various times during period Boeing P12, Boeing P-26 P Shooter, Curtiss P-36 Hawk, Curtiss P-40 Hawk, Bell P-39 Airacobra, Douglas P-70 Havoc, Lockheed P-38 Lightning, Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, 1946 General Dynamics F Viper, Lockheed F-Ear Lighting 2. Remember to follow me on social media for behind-the-scenes content and updates.